Good day guys, my name is Renela Cordova from BSc 2A. So for today, I'm going to discuss about the arts of emerging Europe. So arts of emerging Europe. Being an integral part in Europe, art has been used to communicate ideologies and belief systems within their respective context. The Greek and the Roman civilization were also known as the classical world for both cultures, aiming to embody the epitome of all aspect of life. So, as we notice na kung muadto ta sa kuan Greek or sa Rome, ang first na mapansin is ang ilahang mga buildings which is grabe ka artistic good. So, gina-apply gud nilang arts sa in real life like in architecture na sila tong mga haligi na Corinthian, Ionic, kanto ng mga design. So, ilan yun na na-adapt or na-embody nila. So with both influence and impact of the aforementioned classical worlds being far-reaching, both civilizations tend to promote an objective and widely accepted standard for beauty. So, mukag ilaha nature na i-apply ang arts through sa ila pamuyo mo ginana. Ancient Greece. Greeks values poetry, drama, and philosophy, which remain an interesting field of study in contemporary times. So, diri sa ancient Greece, they value poetry, so drama and philosophy. So, naay mga Greek philosopher na ginagamit nato ang ilang mga belief like ila Plato, Socrates, Democritus, o Aristotle. So they came from Greece, so which is ato na gina-apply ilaha mga philosophy sa in fields of study and contemporary times. So painting, sculpture, and architectures. Those who wants to involve in art, one is required to have a certain skills, sets, and body of knowledge. So there is ancient Greece. So if you want to involve in those art, so dapat malawak gyud imo kuan knowledge or nakay skills. So humanist ideals of the Greeks were reflected in the democratic form of government that at this certain level of freedom was also reflected in their artworks, architectures, literatures, and philosophy. So as I said a while ago na they reflect what they are through their artwork. So in architectures, literature, and philosophy. So the principal belief systems and ideologies are the core Greek art and architectures. So kung diri sa Greek, so kung unsa ila ginatuuhan mo ila gina-apply sa ginabuhat nila sa ilang mga art, sa architectures. And Greek can be divided into 4 periods, which is the geometric, archaic, classical, and Hellenistic. So, this proceeds sa 4 periods of Greek art. So, first and foremost is the geometric period. Sa geometric period, the period when geometric shapes and patterns have taken the spotlight in most of the artwork. So, diri they use geometric like patterns, shapes. So, like as I'm shown as sa nakita kayo na kuan sa ang ila architecture is full of geometric patterns like ang ilang mga haligi, tapos ang shape is geometrically para mas lig-on gyud, mas kuan mas compact ang architecture like ang sa paintings nila. So may pattern na so archaic period, so placed importance on human figures. So it is primarily results of great trading activities with other civilizations. So diri sa archaic period, so diri kay it was when 18th century but historians describe the transition of Greek between the geometric and the classical period. So in between siya sa geometric and sa classical ang archaic period. So which means na diri kay human figures like statues diha naka ang artwork is like statues, and I mean ang mga paintings is basically like human figures ang theme sa archaic period. Then sa classical period, during classical period, Greek sculpture and architecture is at peak, rebuilding their temples and focusing creating artwork. So dahil sa classical is like more on sculpture sila, and architectures is more dahil ni usbong ang architectures na naay mga art. So sa Hellenistic period is the period is the time of Alexander the Great. Art focused on showcasing emotions and depicting realities. So diri sa Hellenistic period is itong mga drama nanggawas na diri sa art through form of drama o art through form of
Next topic is ancient Rome. Roman Republic was established around 500 BCE. It transformed into one of the Western Europe's mightiest empires. They expanded and covered many territories including the Greeks. The fusion of Roman and Greek cultures can be seen mostly in artworks, but some argue that Romans merely copied Greeks' arts. Romans' artwork are stern, harsh, and strong-looking, invoke the principles of realism and highlighting the features of human beings. Some Romans are also known as master builders that earned their reputation for grand monuments and architectural infrastructures. So ang mga Roman Republic is na-establish gid siya around 509 BCE when group of noblemen overthrew the last king of Rome. So ang kaning mga Romans is ginatawag po ni sila og master builders because they had a great understanding of engineering and architecture. They enabled to construct impressive buildings and structures. They have also strong sense in civic pride. So ang kaning mga master builders is mga broad kayo sila mga hunahuna about sa buildings because sila man ang nagakonstruct ng mga Colosseum of some mga infrastructures. Next is Colosseum, one of the architectural achievements of Romans. This amphitheater was planned and constructed during the reign of Emperor Vespasian. So kaning Colosseum is also called as Flavian Amphitheater because diri ginaheld ang mga gladiatorial fight like kanang mga sa Romans preferred nila ang mga comedies. sa Greek is prepared po nila ang mga tragedies which is kanang mga unhappy and crime accident. So kaning Colosseum is na-construct ni siya from concrete and sand. So diri gina held ang mga gladiatorial fight like kanang mag-wear sila og mask. Middle Ages from 500 BCE to 1500 BCE. It is the period of between the decline of the Roman Empire and the Renaissance, characterized by ignorance and darkness. Another dominant characteristic of this period was a church. It is the central figure and authority of the period, highlighting the religious focus and period. Cathedrals were also built. It is categorized into two periods, Romanic and Gothic. So, Romanic inspired the old Roman Empire. Gothic, more on northern flavor from the Goths, Bulgar, and Barbarian. So, sa Middle Ages, kay ah, mga Katolik na ang handle sa ilaha. So, kani mga Katolik ang mga sandigan ng mga Europa sa una. So, mo ni ang nitabang sa mga sa Europa sa katong nagkalisod sila. Renaissance art. Artists value the individual as a subject of art. Most artwork emphasizes naturalism which also an influence of humanism. So, sa Renaissance art, ang ginabalyo nila ang individual or ang humanism. So, mo ni ang sa sulod sa ilang artworks which is ang kanang silagid. Most artists added perspective of deep wherein spaces were explored in different artworks. This technique provide a three-dimensional perspective of most Renaissance paintings. So, some of paintings sa mga Renaissance is mga naka-3D nindot kayo silang mga artworks. Artists also give importance to non-religious themes and subjects. However, most artworks remained religious in its focus and themes. Revival of Roman theatrical plays performed during special occasion at the court of Italian princes. It leads to Italy's opera, which have greatly influenced their tradition of popular theater. So ang artist sa Renaissance period is ginabalyo gyapon nila ang mga non-religious theme. But ginafokusan nila og value ang artwork sa mga religious theme. So sa revival of Roman theatrical plays, gibalik na nila diri ang katong mga comedies and mga tragedies which is sa Roman is gina-focus nila ang comedies, then sa Greek is gina-focus nila ang tragedies. So what is a Roman theatrical plays? So Roman theatrical plays, ang mga actor ani is wear mask on their face while performing on stage or para sa Colosseum. Next is Mannerism. It is a period in art history which was the product of Renaissance period. Artists would observe nature and try their best to emulate it based on their observation. So, ang kaning Mannerism is also a part of Renaissance period. So, di ba sa Renaissance art is ginabalya nila ang ilang individual. Then sa Mannerism is ginafokusan na pod nila ang nature. Sa nature na sila nagakuha og mga art nila. Emulate means ginakopy nila ang kung unsa ang ilang makita. As the Renaissance ended, artists started directly copying subject from
The next is Baroque and the Rococo. The term Baroque is derived from the Portuguese term barroco, which is translated as irregularly shaped pearl. Irregularly shaped pearl or Baroque pearl that is irregularly or oddly shaped. Rome is the birthplace of Baroque period, which according to some historians was a response of Protestantism. Protestantism formed from the split with Roman Catholicism during the Reformation in the 16th century, spun from 1600 to 1750, a period of the following Renaissance. The Renaissance was a fervent period of European cultural, artistic, political, and economic following the Middle Age. Expansion was the central theme of this period. Most artists used colorful palettes and ornamentation in their works. Motion and space were also taken into consideration by artists, like the use of dramatic lighting and the concept of time. Music was also flourished during this period. People believed that music could serve as a powerful tool to communicate message that can evoke certain feelings among its listeners. It can be distinguished loud from the soft and solo from ensemble. The next is the three Italian composers. The first, Antonio Vivaldi. Antonio Vivaldi, he is known mainly for composing many instrumental concertos for the violin and variety of other instruments, as well as sacred choral works and more than 40 operas. Next is Arcangelo Corelli. He was famous for his mastery of the Baroque chamber sonata, as well as his numerous concerto grossi. The third, si Claudio Monteverdi. Monteverdi is an Italian composer in the late Renaissance, the most important developer of the new genre, the opera. The next is the Neoclassicism, a movement in Europe that transpired during the late 1800s and early 1900th century. It was the dominant art movement that time, which basically aimed to revive and rekindle the influences of Greek and the Roman into art and architecture. From the word rekindle, it is to start or start again. Ancient Greeks and Europeans had placed emphasis on human reason and keep society in order. These principles were dominant principles during the Enlightenment period. Enlightenment period, also known the Age of Reason, was intellectual and cultural movement in the 18th century that emphasized reason over superstition and science over blind faith. In short, this period is the revival of a classical style or treatment in art, literature, architecture, or music. The next is the Romanticism. Romanticism, an art movement used the central themes of neoclassicist artwork as a springboard. Romanticists highlight the heroic elements into their work. Heroic element, it means that heroic is important elements in their work. During the Age of Revolution, there has been tremendous focus on the patriotic and nationalistic movement. Tremendous means impressive works or the great works. So, the French Revolution was a watershed event in the world history that began in 1789 and ended in the late 1790s with the ascent of Napoleon Bonaparte. During this period, French citizens radically altered their political landscape, uprooting century-old institutions such as the monarchy and the feudal system. The major and central themes of Romanticism movement include the emphasis on the goodness of mankind. Most work also promoted justice, equality, and social order. Artists also emphasized emotion and feelings of man, which was a deviation from, from the humanist principle of rationalism. Realism. The next is realism, a style of work focuses on the accuracy of details that depicts and somehow mirrors reality. So this style of work it focuses on our society and our reality world. The emphasis is placed in observation traits that can concretize through artwork. It is heavily influenced by Hellenistic Greek culture since most artworks during that period placed emphasis on the human body. So, realism as a modern movement in art varied away from the traditional forms of art. It revolutionized themes and techniques in painting. From the word varied, it it changed or course away from traditional forms. Then, artists' works began to depict real-life events. And the last is the idealistic concept and image were replaced by real manifestation of society.
So let's move on in Impressionism. Impressionism, the movement started in France, which led to break from a traditional in European painting. A style of painting emerged middle to late 80s. The distinctive characteristic of this style is that allow the artist to emphasize the immediately impression he has a particular event or scene. The impression can be seen through the brushstroke, distinction of color, and the light and shadow used by artists. So, ang Impressionism, mo ang ni ang plain air painting. So, ang plain air painting, kanang style na moto sila sa lugar, tapos magdala silang mga gumitaw na nila, tapos sila i-drawing. So, ang mga kuan ane is sila Claude Monet, Alfred Sisley, and Pierre Auguste Renoir. So, si Claude Monet is a founder ni siya sa Impressionism. Mo ni sila ang kuan sa Impressionism. So, Impressionism called in 1860 when a group of painters including Claude Monet, Alfred Sisley, and Pierre Renoir pursue a plain painting together. So, ang famous painting ni Alfred Sisley is the boat during the flood. So kang wala na. So let's move on post impressionism. It is an art movement that emerged in France, which is result of both the influence and rejection of impressionism. This eventually led to a development of individual style that gave emphasis to defining from the with with the use of broken color and short brushstroke. Painters become a painting of the contemporary technique and trends during the 20th century. So, ang kalahian lang sa Impressionism o Impressionism is ang Impressionism is 80s man siya. So, ang kaning post-Impressionism is 20. So, ang kaning post is bago lang din siya, bago pa. So, the painter are Paul Cézanne, George Seurat, Paul Gauguin, and Vincent van Gogh. So, ang ilang mga famous
artwork is cubism. So ang cubism mo to murag mabalaan nyo na murag square pero murag madrawing siya. So si George Sorin mo gihapon ni sa mao ni ang founder sa impression. Post impression. So si Vincent van Gogh mo ni ang iyang famous work is Starry Night, the greatest pose of impressionism. So let's move on neo-impressionism artists. So it is considered as a response to empirical realism or impressionism. The leading figure in neo-impressionism is George Seurat, who recorded optical sensation in a more scientific manner. His color theory paved the way of the technique called pointillism. This art technique utilized discrete dot and dash or pure color. So ang meaning sa pointillism is also called divisionism or a painting that practice or applying small stroke or that. So ang kanang kuan ba nang ang drawing nila is like kanang mga tuldok-tuldok lang pag makahimo ka mga tuldok na dagko gagmay nay may possibly may makahimo kag kuan na art like minsan sa mata or isa pa kanang like that daganay naman ro na artist na makahimo na ron through that na makahimo og art. So ang famous artist ani is sila Henry and Maud Cross and Maximilian Luz and Camille Pissarro. So that's all and thank you.
My name is Dennis C. Capara. In continuation, Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau is the short term for nouveau riche, meaning people who have recently acquired wealth, typically those perceived as ostentatious or lacking in good taste. Countries from Europe and United States witnessed the emergence and flourishing of a new art style between year 1890 and 1910. This ornamental style uses long and organic lines that are concretely manifested in architecture, jewelry, and glass design, among others. The defining characteristics of Art Nouveau is the asymmetrical line that usually form of insect wings or flower stalks. So, Art Nouveau aimed at modernizing design, seeking to escape the eclectic historical styles that have previously been popular. In continuation, Fauvism. This is a style of painting that emerged in France around 20th century. It is made by a pure and vibrant color by applying straight form the paint tubes directly to the canvas. The Fauvists, just like Impressionists, painted directly from the nature. The difference is the most famous works rejected the conservative and traditional rendering of three-dimensional space. Artists introduced and promoted a picture space that is defined by the movement of colors. So Fauvism is an art movement that was established towards the beginning of 20th century and characterized by its bold colors, textures, brushwork, and non-naturalistic direction. So next is Cubism. French artist Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque introduced a new visual arts style between 1907 and 1914. Cubists highlighted the two-dimensional surface of the picture plane. Cubists emphasize that they are not in any way obliged to copy texture from color and space. So, Cubism as a whole wanted to show the whole structure of objects in their painting without using techniques such as perspectives or graded shading to make them look realistic. Next is Futurism. It is nearly 20th century art movement that started in Italy, which highlighted the speed, energy, and dynamism and power of machines. The movement's influence branched out not only Europe but also in Asia. The greatest impact of Futurism is evident in poetry and visual arts. Italian poet and editor Filippo Tommaso Marinetti coined the term Futurism to reflect his purpose of disregarding the traditional method of the art in the past. He believes that art should embrace and embody change, innovation, creativity, and originality. So lastly, the Futurism, though it emphasizes the dynamism, speed, energy, and power of the machine, and the vitality, change, and restlessness of modern life. That's all. Thank you.